The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility.
For many years, the British royal family has carefully cultivated an image of harmony, tradition, and gentle grace. But beyond the glittering gates of palaces and castles, secrets lie like shadows. Secrets that, if revealed, have the capacity to shock the monarchy to its core. And now it appears that one of those secrets has leaked out from behind the thick curtains and marble halls, bringing Queen Camilla's carefully guarded title directly into the crossfire of Prince William's rage. It all began with what palace insiders refer to as the fight that changed everything. A confrontation so furious, so raw, that even seasoned royal advisors, who had been schooled for decades to remain cool in the face of controversy, stood motionless outside that locked door, listening to every poisonous remark that leaked through the crevices. At the center of it all were two women who couldn't be more dissimilar in the eyes of the public. Camilla, the queen consort, who is still struggling to step out of Diana's long shadow, and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, modern, elegant, adored by millions, and the closest thing Britain has had to Diana since Diana herself. For years, Camilla's grip on her title has been based not just on King Charles's unflinching support, but also on a secret agreement among the family, an unspoken rule that grievances must be kept concealed beyond palace walls for the sake of appearance. But that rule was broken when Camilla unleashed a shocking personal assault on Kate, which many insiders feel crossed a boundary that even Charles can't mend at this time. Kate strode out of the room, eyes burning and shoulders quivering, and the storm that followed was irrepressible. At that point, Prince William, Diana's oldest, the future king, the small child who walked behind his mother's coffin as a bereaved nation wept, knew he couldn't stand by any longer. This was more than just an altercation between in-laws. This was about respect, legacy, and preserving the monarchy's image, which Diana had strived to modernize. According to family sources, William's rage sparked something unexpected, a plot to depose Camilla as queen consort, something no successor has ever done before. Hushed meetings began behind Kensington Palace's gates. Advisors were summoned. Royal attorneys were contacted. Kate remained mute in public, but unyielding in private, as the future King of England prepared to upend decades of royal procedure for the woman he loves and the mother he has lost. Stay with us as we unravel every stunning aspect of this royal insurrection. What precisely did Camilla say that made Kate lose her composure? Why did Charles support Camilla, despite the consequences? And how far will William go to safeguard his mother's memories and his wife's dignity? Buckle up. When William wields the axe, even the Queen may lose her crown. The stately halls of Kensington Palace had seen their fair share of quiet tensions and whispered disagreements, but nothing could have prepared the royal family for what happened behind closed doors that late fall day. What began as a regular debriefing following a charity event swiftly turned into a clash that would change the balance of power inside the monarchy and jeopardize the beautifully polished image King Charles and Camilla had worked so hard to maintain. Kate Middleton had just returned from a successful appearance with William, and her warmth and grace had the people shouting her praises once more. Her comments were genuine, her humor contagious, and her connection with the audience nearly magical, a bond that reminded many of Diana's soft elegance. But that same link, that same seamless public love, was a thorn in Camilla's side, piercing her fears that no crown could conceal. According to sources, Camilla entered the room with a tense expression on her face as she witnessed Kate discussing the event's success with staff. With Charles by her side, Camilla began to analyze the day, wondering why the throng appeared more focused on Catherine than on the elder royals themselves. Kate first responded with calm respect, noting that people attracted toward young energy and that they all served the same cause, the crown. However, Camilla was not interested in unity. Camilla allegedly accused Kate of trying too hard to be the next Diana, and undermining her position as queen consort, using a chilly tone of voice. She hinted that Kate's fame was overshadowing her own efforts, making her appear insignificant in comparison to the younger, fresher face that the media admired. A staff worker outside the door subsequently recalled hearing Camilla's voice rise sharply with rage, calling Kate a performer in designer dresses playing the role of a perfect princess while making others look like fools. Kate's composure began to crumble at that point. For more than a decade, she had faced murmurs, comparisons, and persistent media scrutiny, all while safeguarding her children and carrying out her duties with dignity. However, Camilla's attempt to weaponize Diana's memory, implying that Kate was exploiting Diana's legacy for attention, went too far. Kate held steadfast, assuring Camilla that all she did was for the monarchy, her family, and the people who supported the institution despite its previous sins. According to insiders, Camilla responded with the cruelest blow of all. "You will never be Diana, and you will never be queen." Those words lingered in the air like a knife, piercing deeply into the subsequent stillness. Kate's eyes welled up with tears, but she refrained from crying. She turned and went out, past astonished employees who felt something irreparable had just occurred. Her suffering was apparent, but so was her courage, a quiet strength that has earned her a genuine crown in the eyes of the people. Kate didn't have to explain when she spotted William in his study a few seconds later. The future king's manner altered instantaneously after seeing her teary eyes and hearing Camilla's shaky voice. The diplomatic prince, who was constantly concerned with maintaining family harmony, was no longer present. In his place stood a man determined to defend his wife and honor his mother's memories. William raced into the room, the air heavy with tension as Camilla tried to stand firm, and Charles sought to quell the storm with uncomfortable dismissals. But William, with the quiet wrath of a son who had witnessed his mother suffer under the same cruel games decades before, made it clear that insulting Catherine would result in repercussions. Witnesses say Camilla was dumbfounded, recognizing for the first time that her comments had not only backfired, but also sparked a silent fight she could not win. William made up his mind. The days of putting up with Camilla's backhanded insults and power moves were past. The battle was more than just an argument. It was a watershed moment in Camilla's reign, when the future king determined that no crown was worth losing the dignity and respect of the woman he loved, or the memories of the mother he had lost. The argument may have ended in the Great Kensington Chamber, but for William, it was just the beginning. When the door closed behind him and Kate silently held his hand, the future king understood the time for silent endurance had passed. He'd seen and heard too much, and the heavy shadow of his mother's past hung over his present. Camilla's statements to Kate were more than simply harsh. They were a symbol of a deeper disease in the palace, which William refused to let fester under his watch. Later that evening, as Camilla went to her own quarters and Charles buried himself in paperwork, William made a phone call. A few trusted advisors arrived silently at nightfall, slipping via Kensington Palace's side door. These weren't simply assistants. They were the individuals William trusted with the most important matters: a senior private secretary, a royal legal advisor, and a veteran family aide who had known Diana and William since infancy. The mood in the private study was tense, as if a man were about to battle centuries of tradition in order to preserve the future. William paced the room, his jaw clenched, recalling Camilla's insults to Kate, her continual undermining, and her deep-seated envy, which had poisoned the family for far too long. The advisors listened intently, realizing the significance of what William was proposing. He was more than simply upset. He was determined not to let the monarchy make the same mistakes that had crushed his mother's soul, determined not to see Kate's humiliation in the same palace that had previously ignored Diana's cries. Above all, Camilla was determined to defend the crown's future, not for her fragile ego, but for those who still believed in it. One counsel gently brought up the truth of the situation. Camilla was queen consort. a title publicly supported by the late Queen Elizabeth. Removing or lowering the title would send shockwaves across the monarchy, attracting Parliament, constitutional experts, and international media attention. But William, with his penetrating look, simply stated, "It will be worth it." The debate turned to strategy. If William was unable to remove Camilla immediately, he might at least begin to limit her power by removing her from crucial public-facing events and laying the groundwork for a future in which her role would be reduced, if not eliminated. The legal expert indicated that while Charles was king, Camilla's title could not be removed without extensive constitutional maneuvering. However, once William rose to the throne, he would wield complete control. They addressed the likely repercussions. Charles would refuse, and Camilla would not leave easily. There would be leaks, media spin, and desperate attempts to portray William as a disruptor. But in that meeting, surrounded by individuals who recalled Diana's tears and the subsequent stillness, everyone felt that it was a risk worth taking. One senior staffer, very upset, reminded William of the public's devotion to Diana, how the people had never truly accepted Camilla, and how Kate had carried Diana's legacy with dignity and elegance. The people, the aide assured, will stand with William, just as they had with his mother. As the conference came to an end, the objective was clear: restrict Camilla's position, prepare the palace for a future transfer, and inform Camilla that her days of unfettered control were over. William had finished playing the game. He was prepared to lead, not only for himself, but also for Kate, Diana, and the monarchy, which needed to exist after Camilla's rule. That night, when William returned to Kate, he held her hand and vowed to her the same thing he had quietly promised his mother: the palace would never again ruin the women he loved. Camilla's reign, which had hitherto been secure beyond the palace walls, was now officially under threat, and this time it was personal. King Charles has always taken delight in maintaining the appearance of peace within the royal family. After decades of scandal, tragedy, and popular disdain, he didn't want another schism that would reveal the monarchy's flaws. But when Camilla raced into his private study, her voice shaking with wrath and dread, demanding that he handle William, Charles recognized this was no ordinary family feud. This was a conflict that might devastate the little calm he thought he had established. Camilla, enraged, retold every aspect of the confrontation with Kate, neatly portraying herself as the victim, alleging Kate had violated her position and turned William on her. She demanded Charles put William in his place before the boy ruins everything. But Charles knew the real problem wasn't William's defiance. It was Camilla's inability to control her bitterness, particularly toward Diana's memory, which hung heavily over the palace like a ghost refusing to leave. When Charles eventually sat down with William the next morning, trying to calm things down, the mood was frigid. William, steadfast and unshakable, refused to break his vow to Kate and to Diana's legacy. Charles pleaded with him to consider the family's image, telling him that Camilla had been at his side during his worst moments, that she was his wife and queen consort, and that openly contesting her position may result in a constitutional nightmare. But for William, these remarks fell hollow. They seemed like excuses, a continuation of the palace's decades-long practice of safeguarding reputations while disregarding the actual damage done behind closed doors. William responded by reminding his father of how the public felt about Camilla, how Kate and himself remained the most popular royals, and how Camilla's presence served as a continual reminder of Diana's grief. William made it plain that he was not challenging the monarchy's stability. Rather, he was defending it. Charles, feeling pressured, suggested a family peace meeting where Kate and Camilla could clear the air. But William, with a look of controlled rage on his face, rejected the proposal, claiming that forgiveness could only come with accountability, and Camilla had demonstrated none. The conversation ended in quiet, with Charles scratching his temples in annoyance, and William leaving without looking back. Behind the royal walls, the split became apparent. Senior staffers who had been loyal to Charles and Camilla for years were now murmuring in hallways, wondering if Camilla's presence was worth the growing strain. Others, particularly those who had witnessed William and Kate's dignified and public-spirited demeanor, began gradually changing their allegiance, recognizing that a new age was on its way, whether Charles liked it. Camilla became increasingly nervous as she felt her power slipping away. She began watching which staff members spoke to William and Kate, demanding loyalty from those around her, and isolating herself in meetings where she had previously felt at ease. Her annoyance became desperate when she saw that even public support was dwindling, with social media buzzing about Kate's silent fortitude and William's protective stance. Charles, torn between the lady he loved and the boy he couldn't bear to lose, took the only option he knew: inactivity. Instead of confronting Camilla or openly supporting William, he retreated into a shell of ambiguous remarks, promoting family unity, but doing little to address the fundamental dispute. The palace's PR team was left spinning empty claims about the family moving forward together, but the public was not duped. Inside the royal family, the schism was complete. Camilla and Charles on one side, holding to the old methods of quiet and appearances, and William and Kate on the other, demanding responsibility, respect, and a monarchy that could finally meet the people's expectations. The palace had divided, and there was no turning back. Long after her death, Princess Diana's influence continues to shape choices, provoke disputes, and define public opinion in ways that neither Charles nor Camilla can entirely control. No matter how many years pass or how many meticulously prepared public appearances are made, Diana's legacy casts a shadow that Camilla cannot escape, particularly when it comes to Kate. Every handshake Kate extends, every sincere smile she gives to the public, and every hour she spends soothing a mourning family or an ill kid contains echoes of Diana's soul. Kate is not putting on a show. She is herself. People see it, feel it, and remember Diana every time Kate enters the spotlight. This link frightens Camilla, who has spent decades attempting to replace an irreplaceable lady in the eyes of both her family and the public. Camilla's worries had always been kept hidden behind palace walls, but following the argument with Kate and the ensuing meeting with William, those fears became open terror. She recognized that, while she may wear the crown and sit next to the king, she would never be the queen of people's hearts. Diana retained the title, and she reigned via Kate. Insiders stated that Camilla frequently complained to Charles about the continuous comparisons, claiming that every newspaper article praising Kate was an insult to her own efforts. Camilla hadn't given up trying. In her eyes, she had spent years supporting Charles and the crown, but she could never believe that the people's love could not be forced or demanded. It had to be won, and Diana had done so without trying. Diana's shadow serves as a guiding beacon for William rather than a burden. He recalls her weeping, the loneliness she felt, and the public humiliation she faced. As a small child, he will always remember walking behind her casket, witnessing seas of flowers, and hearing the mute screams of a bereaved nation. It strengthens his commitment to Kate that history would not repeat itself under his watch. Kate, too, has sensed Diana's presence, not as rivalry, but as comfort. She has frequently spoken about the obligation she feels to uphold Diana's principles of compassion, authenticity, and a strong connection to others. In many respects, Diana's legacy has served as a silent barrier for Kate, allowing her to weather the chilly stares and whispered comments from within the palace, especially those from Camilla. Camilla, on the other hand, cannot escape the fact that every public appearance she attends with Kate serves as a silent referendum, with the public comparing her every gesture to the warmth they see in Kate, the warmth they once felt in Diana. Camilla will never win this comparison, no matter how hard she works to present an image of stability and elegance. This unavoidable shadow has become Camilla's biggest dread, breaking away the delicate mask of togetherness she is attempting to maintain with Charles. The public will never forget Diana, and Camilla's attempts to push her position only serve to enhance the people's attachment to Diana's legacy, which is now mirrored in Kate's calm strength. Camilla's anxieties are becoming more true as the tension increases and William prepares to act. Diana's shadow is not diminishing. Rather, it is getting stronger thanks to Kate and William, reminding the world that while crowns and titles can be bestowed, genuine love and respect must be earned, and they can never be taken away, no matter how many years or crowns are worn. The palace gates remained towering, but the walls within were trembling. After the battle with Kate and the icy encounter with William, Camilla retreated behind her carefully kept image, sure that the storm would pass as it usually did. She misjudged William's tenacity. In the days that followed, Kensington Palace became a hub of quiet activity. Meetings were planned late at night, with trusted aides entering through side doors with paperwork and legal documents. To the public, it was business as usual. A happy royal family attending events and waving from balconies. Behind the scenes, however, a historic scheme was emerging. William made up his mind. He was done enabling Camilla to wield power via intimidation and whispered threats, for his mother's memory to be insulted, and watching Kate suffer the same coldness Diana had. It was time to act. Though Charles had publicly approved Camilla's status as queen consort, William was aware that it may be changed. William secretly met constitutional experts who indicated that titles within the royal family, albeit ceremonial, wielded influence in defining public opinion and royal hierarchy. While Charles reigned, taking Camilla's title totally would be difficult, but William could begin the process of deconstructing her authority, laying the groundwork for a future in which her title would no longer exist under his rule. The first stage was to maintain control over one's look. William began asking top officials to limit Camilla's attendance at major public events, particularly those related to Diana's legacy, charities close to Kate, and times of great public interest. Seating arrangements, press announcements, and social media postings were changed subtly to focus attention on William, Kate, and their children. Camilla saw the shift almost immediately and demanded explanations from Charles, who, powerless to stem the flood, provided only empty reassurances. Then followed the silent legal foundation. William entrusted his legal advisors with investigating how Camilla's title may be reduced upon his succession to the throne. Under some circumstances, the title Queen Consort might be redefined or deleted, relegating Camilla to Princess Consort, or possibly removing any consort title entirely, putting her in a lower public position after Charles died. William was adamant that when he became king, Camilla's shadow would not eclipse Kate's proper place at his side. Camilla fought to fight back as the walls closed in. She pressed Charles to approach William to compel him to stand back and respect the crown. But Charles, exhausted and scared of public opinion, provided only vague assurances of managing the situation, refusing to confront William personally once again. Camilla realized she was losing control of the castle she had ruled with whispered alliances and carefully crafted smiles. Insiders recounted Camilla pacing late at night, demanding briefings from close advisors, fearing the monarchy would collapse without her, and claiming she was irreplaceable. But the fact was clear. The public had never truly embraced Camilla, and even within the palace, her popularity was dwindling. Senior staff who had previously catered to her requests now discreetly allied themselves with William and Kate, understanding where the future lay. In private, William told Kate that no matter what, he would shield her and their children from the grief and disgrace Diana had experienced. Kate, holding his hand, understood that this was about more than just them. It was about ensuring that the monarchy reflected the ideals Diana had lived for, the values that the public adored Kate for, and the values that would protect the family's future. The title stripping had begun, not with a single declaration, but with 1,000 subtle, intentional cuts that would eventually leave Camilla without the crown she had battled so hard to obtain. For the first time, Camilla knew that her greatest threat was not controversy or the media, but a son who was determined to defend his mother's legacy and the woman he loved at all costs. Camilla once thought that with a crown on her head and Charles at her side, she had finally achieved the power and acceptance she had longed for over decades of controversy and gossip. But within the frigid, echoing hallways of the palace, she must confront a fact she can no longer ignore. Her reign is slipping through her fingers, not with big declarations, but with the quiet, unrelenting will of Prince William, the son of the woman she could never replace. What began as a furious outburst against Kate escalated into a reckoning that no palace aide, carefully crafted speech, or trembling demand to Charles could quell. William's quiet commitment to his mother and wife is gradually transforming the monarchy from inside, ensuring that Diana's anguish does not become Kate's burden. Camilla's exclusion from events, shifts in public narrative, and subtle downgrading in etiquette serve as reminders that her authority was never genuinely hers. It was borrowed, fragile, and based on a quiet that no longer exists. People can see what's going on. They picture Kate standing with calm grace, embracing Diana's kindness, but creating her own path as the future queen that the people genuinely want. They perceive William as a protective husband and future king, ready to rule with boldness and conviction, rather than a sad lad. And they see Camilla, who was once sure of her place, now standing on shaky footing, confronting the effects of years of whispered anger and hidden brutality. Is this the end of Camilla's reign? Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but the unwinding has started. When William ascends to the throne, Camilla will have no crown or title to shelter her from the truth that the monarchy belongs to the people. And the people have already decided. Because, in the end, a queen's position in history is determined by more than just her title or crown. People's hearts are filled with love, respect, and affection. Camilla will never be able to take this away from Diana or Kate.